Yes.
All right, very good. So welcome everybody to this version of the meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Let's see. So Walt is not with us, but I think we'll be able to get through this with Randy's help and Jim's help, et cetera. I think the purpose of this meeting will be for us to go through all the revisions, and there have been many, many revisions. I've processed all those, and I'll share with you the updated spreadsheet. I think we're narrowing in on a really good position right now that I think is well tested, meets the county's needs, and very votable, sort of all three of those things together. But let's expose some of that today and then talk about some of the distinctions. It looks like right now we've got the meeting on the 28th. Is that right? Yeah, 28th at 4 p.m. So if you guys can pencil that in, that would be our opportunity to present this to council. And my understanding right now, and we need to confirm this, is that we can get some feedback and make adjustments. So this should be our going in position, not our final position, is my understanding. We've still got to confirm that, but I think that's the case.
That's correct, Mark.
Okay. Oh, you are. Are you 100% confident of that, Jim?
I am. Yeah. So, so with it being an advertised council work session, what we need to be prepared is to talk about our process.
Yeah.
And talk about our main priorities without suggesting that that's final or committing to that's final, because with it a council work session, they're going to want to respond. And once you have a final resolution in front of them, then their response is an up or down vote.
Okay.
So this being a work session, they're going to get input from you, and they're going to give some response back or some input back to you before you actually take a final vote on the resolution to go to council. And my understanding is that's going to go to council at a regular meeting in June.
That's my understanding as well. Yeah. And we were trying to work through the dates. Yeah. So Jim,
What is the time again? What is the time again on the 28th? You asked to pencil it in.
4 to 5:30 on the 28th.
And where is that?
It'd be in council.
It's going to be in county council chambers, the historic courthouse downtown.
And so, Jim, are you thinking it would have the following chapters, in the PowerPoint presentation, essentially? A, a recap of what we've been asked to do. B, a recap of what we've actually done, the process we use, the scoring methodology. C, some color commentary about feedback we got, et cetera. D, sort of principles around where we landed. Next, the list itself.
Right. And
then finally, maybe some other likely directions we're headed in terms of, asks or how we might write the vote, write the language and or the bonding point. All those true?
Yes. So,
okay.
So from the projects themselves, I would focus on this appears to be our top 10 projects.
You mean versus exposing the entire list?
Right.
Okay. Okay. Well, we can talk more about the specifics of that.
Yeah.
While we're on it,
we can let them ask for more than that if that's what they want.
Okay.
And then I'm also drafting for you, and following this meeting, I'll complete the draft of what the resolution coming from you to county council looks like.
Right. Okay. That sounds like a plan. So that's I want to just sort of overview big picture as step one in our meeting agenda. Meeting agenda 2 is to approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Has everybody reviewed those? And does anybody have any comments or changes? I thought they looked good. All right, so if we can get an approval on those minutes with a motion, that'd be great.
And move that the minutes be approved.
Second.
All in?
Aye.
All right, we'll consider those approved. Okay, so let's, I'll share the current list as it is. As I said, everybody came back to me with detailed changes.
Hey, Mark,
Thanks. Yeah,
before you do that, Jim, quick question, because you said top 10. So we've kind of been looking at things, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, about from the $70 million target. If that is more, if that actually takes up more than 10, I mean, is that do we need to go top 10, or should we say, at 70 million, which we think the revenue is coming in, that this is what we're looking at as our top priorities? And what works best there?
So that's a good point, and one that I probably need to verify. I think we could go through the anticipated revenues. So if that's 13 projects instead of 10, or whatever the case may be, I think we just want to be consistent with the council that this is a work session and that we're here to present, but also here to listen to their feedback.
Mm-hmm.
and I get that. I guess to Robert's point, I was just going to take it offline and have some discussion with you, but I would have sort of expected we'd expose A, B, and C categories. Whole shoot and match.
Yeah, I think in general we will want to discuss it. They're going to be A, B, and C categories.
Yeah.
But unless they push for it in this work session, I think our specific comments as to project priorities should be either 10 of them, or to Robert's point, the number of them that gets us to the dollar amount we expect to receive. Okay.
Well, let's talk offline about that. Where I could really use some help from you, Jim, is making sure that we're super clear on what is legally appropriate, right? And sort of, procedurally appropriate. I definitely don't want to get outside of procedurally appropriate, and then we can, adjust within the procedurally appropriate.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right, cool. Robert, did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Did you get to make your comment?
I just, my fuzzy thoughts are about, when you talk about pushback from council, are they going to be trying to, with their recommendations, telling us what ought to be in the top tier, regardless of what we present, but that's
smart, Robert.
Mm-hmm.
That's really smart.
Mm-hmm.
And council knows from their legal guidance that they need to be careful about telling you what to do.
Okay.
For lack of a better way to say
I
it.
like what Robert's saying, Mark, because it's kind of not what you say, but how you say it.
Mm.
And if that bucket is getting another vote or two of some project in one of those council members' area, you're kind of saying, I'm getting each council member a little something extra.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
they have a tough job to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk through the current standing as it is. I'll walk you through some of the changes that have been made so you can sort of see the before and after in a way. I'll do my best job to do that. And then we can sort of see if people feel pretty good about that lineup. The second part then is we could go through, and for the projects that are sort of scored similarly, like those that all have 18s, then within that, do we want to leave the sequencing as it is listed, or consider it something different and do some moving around within the categories? We don't have to resolve that today, but it'd be good to take a first shot at it. And then I think we'll be, short of any, significant concerns, I think we'll be pretty darn close. Okay, let me see if I can share this. By the way, I appreciate everybody sending me your updated scores. I appreciate more those of you that told me which scores actually changed versus me having to go through them. But all right, so this is the updated control sheet status. It's currently enlisted of order of priority A through B, then C. I made some changes to make the math easier on me. I went ahead and converted A's to 3, B's to 2, and C's to 1. So that's the coding mechanism in here. And that was just simply so I could make column O easier math. Harris probably knows how to do that. A equals 3, B equals 2, and 1 equals C, but I didn't. So let me get this correct. You guys will recall last time we went through and we color-coded green the dollars based on what was currently in. And I just left that green so you'll see where green has changed and where green has stayed the same. And then same with blue, which is the second tier or category B. So right now, sorry, let me get. And by the way, if anybody detects an error where I translated your stuff differently than you intended, just let me know, we can change it. So right now, this is the sequencing as we've got. And for the most part, these stayed the same. There was some slight movement within the category. The reason I highlighted the green, and we can come back and talk about this, that's on the screen right now on the left, is because those were projects that were very small. And so we'll come back and talk about it. But you'll notice right now P6 is sitting in here at 12 million bucks, which will consume over a year's worth of funding. We might consider changing the timing of some of these under the assumption that we don't bond it. We still don't know if we'll bond it, and we need to assume we're not going to bond it in our sequencing. We might consider moving some of these up so they get done ahead of a big 1 year kind of commitment or a more than 1 year kind of commitment.
So to make sure I'm clear on that.
Yeah.
The order that we rank the bucket A projects is the order in which they have to be done regardless of how much tax revenue comes in versus the cost of each project. So for instance, if we'd ranked the Sandpit Community Sewer Project first, would $12.8 million worth of revenue have to come in before any other project could be completed unless they're bonded?
That is my understanding. Yeah.
Okay.
So in theory, right, all things sort of equal in terms of value to the community and all those things, which is why I do think for those that score very high together, we can look at it that way. You could argue we want to get, 6 of them done in year 1 versus 1 done. That would be the mentality. I'm not suggesting we have to agree to that, but that would be the logic. Now, if it's bonded, a lot of different things, that all goes out the window and it makes that a lot easier. But I just sort of want to raise that point to you.
That
I also drew.
There's some, excuse me, Mark.
Yeah.
There is some, Jim, you could help with this. There is some strategy there on our part. If, for example, Carolina is the councilman on there and he really wants to get Sandpit done, if it's in year 3 or 4 and he really wants to get it done, and if we really desire to have it bonded, if that's the county's in that position to do it, if Sandpit's not in year 1, because I think it's our hope. I don't want to speak for y'all, but I'd like to see a lot of the smaller projects get done before a $12 million project gets done. There's some strategy there for Carolina and somebody else to say, let's bond this thing. Jim, I might need your help trying to reword what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying.
If you put the $12 million project in year 3 or 4, that's going to give the council members more incentive to bond than not.
Mhm.
Yep. That's a really good point.
Yeah, that is a good point, Gary. And I think strategically, you all and most any commission that's worked like you have, and the public, the general public, will want to see some progress early on.
Yeah.
And where you've got a ready to go project. And I can't remember what Tommy said about the Sandpit community, if it's totally designed and ready to go or not.
Right.
But I do recall his conversation about how long it takes to pull together the details of a sewer line projects. And I remember we pressed him about, is it going to take, I think he said 16 months.
Right.
So you've got that dynamic when you're looking at strategically placing these projects. I think the other thing about the financing.
I'm sorry, Jim.
Well, just the other thing about the bonding financing is my understanding of the guidance that the county has received about that, where it's not a project that is actually a project of the county government. So the entity is the Georgetown Water and Sewer Authority. And so there's going to have to be a fair amount of coordination between the Georgetown Water and Sewer Authority and Georgetown County as to who actually does the bonding, if that's the strategy that they choose. So that's in part why you'll hear Angela say she sure hopes that most of this is pay as you go. Now, again, to Mark's point and to your point, Gary, the county council has a whole group of tough decisions to make about all of this, and the financing is just one of them.
I'm sorry, Jim. Explain the cross-entity bonding point again.
So Angela just told me that the bond council that they've talked to has shared with them that they need to be strategic and careful about issuing bonds for other entities, so that there is complete understanding and complete strategy about who holds the bonds and how they're rated. So is it better for them to be rated as a issuance of the Georgetown Water and Sewer Authority, or is it better for them to be issued or rated as an issue of Georgetown County? And then
what about townships? What does that mean? Like, let's say Andrews or Pauley's has an item in here that we would bond. Explain that, how that would work.
So then that too would be a negotiation. And if the county holds the bonds, then does the county take on the whole project management and responsibility for the implementation of the entire project? And the bondholders on the other side, those that purchase the bonds, probably would say yes. If the county's holding the bonds, you better be managing that project.
Does that avoid, Jim, issues that we heard voiced during our town hall meetings where a project went over budget because it wasn't administered right? If the county holds the bonds, are they responsible for like we were talking about hiring, they were talking about hiring a project manager to oversee that? would that give them more authority to manage the cost of projects or not?
It would, yeah. And their bondholders would put on them more responsibility there
Got it.
or
Okay.
expectation.
Well,
Okay.
that was just a thought, Mark, about in your strategy. Like you and Harrison, all of you guys are going to be better at this than me. But I know the personal side. If I'm in their shoes, I know what I would be thinking. Oh my gosh, it's going to be like that EOC building. I would probably put that lower because I would want to see the steel mill drainage done before that. You know, so I was just thinking as a human, being as a council member, which one I would want to see done first. And if you see that thing down lower, you'd be like, oh crap, we got to bond it.
Right.
And
So
my hope is that's part of the benefit of our work session.
Mm-hmm.
So Jim, let me ask a question just on the way the money flows. So this is passed, sales tax revenue starts going to the state. This is my understanding anyway. Sales tax revenue goes to Department of Revenue. On a quarterly basis, they distribute whatever they've received under this tax to whom? To the county, or is it to the sponsoring entities one by one as the projects are organized?
The Department of Revenue distributes to the county.
Okay, so if the county's getting all the cash, which is the cash that's going to be used to repay the bonds, then that doesn't seem to be as difficult of a situation. And maybe I'm missing something, but it seems to me the county could hold back an amount of money every quarter to make whatever payment they need to make on the bond, and pass the rest through to the entities. Or I guess not thinking about it, the entities would get the money. They bonded it. The entities might get the money up front.
Mhm.
Yes.
So then the county would
Well,
just withhold.
right.
Then the county would just withhold everything to make the bond payments.
Withhold the debt service payments. Yes.
Yeah. So they would control.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they would own the debt, but they would also be the one controlling all the cash.
Yes.
But wouldn't that all?
But that would put
Wouldn't that-
them direct into the performance loop as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Jim, I want to clarify one thing. Are we talking about all or nothing for bonding? In other words, is there a strategy out there where we could bond, certain projects and then not bond others? Because I don't know how that
There
would work
is, yes.
logistically. Because
Yeah.
let's say, for
Yeah.
example, and I'm making this up just as an example, let's say for the reasons you were talking about earlier, somebody wanted to consider a scenario where you don't bond township-based things. So the town of Andrews, the town of Pawleys wouldn't be bonded, but the others would. That's going to create a real goofy model where I think by definition, then the town-based projects get pushed out to the latter years, doesn't it?
Well, I guess it depends on your debt service requirement.
You're right. Yeah, I guess you could
the way you
sequence
set
it out
up.
differently.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Jim,
tricky.
Yeah, but you could see a scenario where the county decides, you know what, we're going to bond this emergency operations center,
Okay.
and the rest of them don't get bonded at all. Right.
Are we better served giving them options? I've always had a better result when I give my business partners at a private equity fund as the operator, going to them and saying, you have A, B, and C. Because like you said, the council, they have a much more difficult job once we deliver them this, because it has to be voted by all the voters.
I like Gary's
So-
point, because one option would be you bond the big ones.
Can we give them enough options so they can finance whatever they need to? Flexibility is a powerful thing. can we give them enough flexibility that they can get this done however they need to? Because what we ultimately want is the voters to vote on it.
Right. So the statute doesn't, and the court rulings don't allow you to give them flexibility as to the project priorities. But the courts have given them some flexibility when they look at your priorities and they make a specific determination that project 8 or project F, whatever we want to call it, would be better served in this county being financed as opposed to pay as you go. And they have to follow some guidelines making that determination, but they can, after you've given them the priorities, they can make that determination.
Okay.
Mark, I don't know how to do the details, but giving the council flexibility, I think would be a powerful thing for us to give them that flexibility. I would want Jim's, real input and stamp on that, because I'm sure some have gotten a lot of flexibility at other of the 46 counties and maybe messed it up. There's a lot of history, I'm sure, on that, and case files on how that messed up. So
Yeah.
What sounded like a good idea and good intentions probably went bad. But anyway, I'm gonna be quiet. At least that's food for thought.
All right. So let's focus our attention now on the details of the list. Everybody still seeing the list?
Yeah.
Yes.
So by and large, the green items or the A items stayed the A items with one exception, which is COG worked its way up into that list, above the list, above this. One of the other things we need to look at is, we talked about the interdependencies here of P9 and P5, the two that are highlighted as yellow. From a logic standpoint, I think we still have to execute P5 before we do P9. So we've got to work through that sequencing. And then I highlighted on the right 3 that are in red, where the relative priorities are lower than sort of we scored them, and that's okay. But I wanted to draw that to people's attention. And then the other one that's moved up a bit is Project 40, Merle's Inlet dredging, has moved up into category B, as indicated by the blue, and 27 moved up into the blue, and 15. And Big Dam Water dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those were the changes that were impacted by score changes at the detailed level. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Any questions on the macro in terms of changes and impact and what our current list sort of looks like?
Just to be clear, the projects in green get us to the $80 million or $70 million mark.
Yeah, the green plus 24 gets us to about 72 million.
Good call on 24 too, by the way.
Yeah, so I think I don't know if you guys feel, but I feel like we've got the right list in terms of A's and B's right now. And now we ought to pivot to sequencing discussions within the A's and B's. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And maybe we just sort of talk about some and then we can work offline a little bit on the details. But I feel like we've got to think about the bonding thing. I feel like we ought, I'd like some discussion on, do you guys generally believe we ought to be sequencing? By the way, I feel like, let me get to here was a point I was thinking about. I feel like it's okay for us to sequence a bit within reason. Like, for example, in the first 4, they all scored 18. I think it'd be very reasonable for us to sequence those sort of however we think is the most impactful and thoughtful. I think we start maybe losing a little bit of our intention if we start taking one that scored down in, scored 13 versus 18 and start resequencing that radically different than that. Unless we've got a really good reason. And I think, a $10 million number might be a really good reason, but we sort of need to stay philosophically true to the way we evaluated them. Does that make sense?
That's here.
Okay.
Yes.
So does anybody see any that you feel like we've got to take care of? I mean, I feel like we've got to take care of getting 9 and 5 reconciled from a sequencing standpoint. Agreed?
Well, I like what Gary was saying, and I hope Jim has a magic pill for us to be able to put in each of the council members' water to help them to say, hey, look, with these big projects, if we want to get them done, yeah, let's bond them. And that gives us a flexibility being able to put more wins into the citizens' pockets with the smaller items up front. And so there's win-win across the spectrum. Just harping on what Gary was saying.
Okay.
Yeah, seeing shovels, man, would be powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Amen on that one.
And what I mean by that is planning for the worst would probably be doing some, and I'm happy to take a cut at it for you guys to review if you want, because I'm not sure it's easy to do in group. But to take a cut at resequencing those within a tight score range, so not pulling a 13 up to an 18, but having some play within 15, 16, 17 perhaps, to maybe move some of the smaller ones up on a balanced way across the county, so that in the worst case scenario, from a sequencing standpoint, it works out in terms of the county, all the county and all the voters feeling like, they're getting progress made.
Turn on the tax dollars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And then we hope for the worst or plan for the worst, or the best, which is, we get a bonding that takes that issue out of the way. And I'm happy to take a cut at that and send that out to you guys, but I think it'd be really hard to try to work through that together.
Mark, I think if that mentality, I don't think has ever been done in Georgetown County. It's always been a them or us. And when we started this out, we talked about unity. And I think that mentality will help on the unity calls.
Yeah.
And just like we went around to every place, and we heard from every place where people have felt left out. And I think you called it, we got to pull some areas up. And I think that's really smart. And there's some areas like Merle's Inlet that are the economic engine of the county. And for them not to get something would be really unwise. So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay. Are there anyone others? Let's look at the blue list real quick. Are there any others you feel like need particular attention, or perhaps resequencing?
Mark, can you go back up to the to 5 and 9? I just want to see how my scores compare to everybody else. So 9, you got me at 1. That's correct. 1, that's correct. Okay, well, I'm not that far off. I just those. I'm surprised to see those projects in the green. I probably should have mentioned this on the last call, but I just didn't score those very high because the only part of that project that immediately affects people's lives is project 9, and you got a lot of cash to burn through before you get to
Yeah.
that point. So that's why I didn't prioritize them that high, but I wasn't that far off.
Don't feel alone, Harris. I think you're thinking in mind we're along the same lines, because I'm looking at it from an economic development standpoint, and the way that it was presented to us was about taking care of future people versus taking care of the people who are here paying your daily rates. So I was kind of upset internally with that, because I know an engineer can make anything happen that they want to make happen.
Are you guys suggesting we do something different with this, or
No.
okay?
No, because I this is just me. You guys can tell me go fish, and I would definitely do it. Um, if we can convince council to look at these these large projects, 'cause we're talking 15 mil with just those two projects. If they will bond those and the others, we can go ahead and put monies on. I'm seeing two wins there. One, it gives us the freedom to put more monies, as we said, across the county early, so people see a return on their tax dollars as well as the visitors' tax dollars. And two, as it pertains to economic development, these future companies are going to see county council doing something that is pro-business, because they're putting the money out there to make sure that these things happen, the infrastructure happens. And so that's gonna be a part of that economic engines building up steam for this county. But Jim, educate me, because I don't know if they bond now, how much they're restricted from being able to do things in the future.
Right. Ashley, I just want to check in with you.
I don't know the detail of how much they're restricted from their other financing sources as well. So I know USDA used to have a restriction that your match could not be from bond proceeds. Now that was a while ago. I haven't done anything active with USDA in a while, but I know they used to have that.
Well, and I guess just to add one more thing to that, I do know that statewide, the world of economic development is looking more at Georgetown County now as the place to steer businesses to, because as we said from the beginning, we're sandwiched and there's a lot of potential here. So again, that's why I say take care of your people now. That way, what needs to be done to take care of economic development going forward, you're going to have support from other areas. As I would say that the county council standing in front of them today, and they know this because they live and breathe it.
Super. Ashley, you've been quiet. Are you tracking? Do you have any concerns or thoughts?
I've been tracking, but I'm also watching the road that is full of people.
Please watch the road.
Yeah, but I'm tracking.
Okay. Any other comments?
Just one comment on that project that Robert's talking about. Doesn't that get us one step closer to Raymond Newton's project at the Andrews Industrial Park? Doesn't it get us pressure to his industrial park? Because that growth and development, that Brick Chimney Road going towards that backside of Andrews and Georgetown, and that industrial park is where the industry is going to be growing.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like we're at a good place to pivot to to-dos. I feel like we need one more meeting where we talk about two things. One is the preliminary final list, because it's never final until it's final, but the next version of that. So I'll work on an updated version of that with some tweaks and tuning, but you won't see category changes. You're only going to see subcategory changes. And then second, let's call it an outline of the deck, an outline of the content that we put in front of the board, sorry, the council. Jim and I will work on scratching that out. So at least we have a detailed outline, if not the actual slides or some of the actual slides. I think that would be, and let you guys see that too, because they sort of work together, I believe. Does that sound like an okay plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Good to
So
me.
To make sure I'm clear on the bonding, so our options are you can bond all or a portion of bucket A, or we can select specific projects in bucket A to bond. Is that right?
I'm going to defer to Jim.
Well, our options are more along the lines of what Gary was talking about. Our options are, yes, council, we want you to have the flexibility to consider bond financing, or no, we don't, we think this should all be done pay as you go without any bonds. Beyond that, I don't think we can actually require council to bond.
Okay, we just give them the option on the ballot.
But I do think,
Right, it's permissive, yes.
Okay.
And as you said, Jim, that prompts, or that gives council the ability to ask us questions, which allows us to be able to at least point some things up for their consideration, where they can see where in council's best interest to put that bonding. Am I
Yes.
right there?
Yes.
We can try to influence without influencing.
Yeah.
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
so if we're going to do those two things, then we just need to pick a time to meet again. I'd love to meet early in the week next week. I don't even think we need an hour.
I'm gonna almost have to meet early in the week.
Okay.
My schedule late in the week is gonna just
When
about
is-
prohibit me from participating.
When is Walt back?
My understanding is he would be gone all of this week, but we'd be back in the office on Monday.
Did you meet on Tuesday, Jim?
Yes.
Because you and I are going to have to work on sort of an outline, presentation outline, so these folks can have some input to it.
Yeah, Tuesday's actually the best day for me.
I'm going to nominate 8 a.m. on Tuesday or 8:30.
Mr. Chairman, why don't we look at maybe 9:30, 9 or 9:30 instead?
Do you not get up till then, or what?
No, I have something going on at 8:30 in the morning on Tuesday, but I could probably get out of it by 9.
Did you say 10?
I said 9 or 9:30, but whatever's up to you.
Would 9 or 9:30 work for you guys on Tuesday?
Yep, works for me.
I'll be in Charleston with a team doing a site survey, but I can sneak away. So if we do it 9:30, I'll just excuse myself
Okay.
and be on.
9 work better, Robert?
It doesn't, we start at 9, so I wanted to be, if 9:30 is gonna be good, because they can get started, and any questions they have of me, they can save until I get back in their presence.
If 8:30
Randy-
works for you, Mr. Crenshaw, then I can check and see if maybe I can cancel that thing I've got on my calendar.
No, not gonna say that because I'll be traveling. So no, let's stick to 9:30 if that's good for everybody else.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. So Randy, can you help us then, Randy, with securing, whatever's needed technologically and a calendar invite, and then also putting up public notice? I guess it would have to go up by 9:30 on Monday, correct?
That's correct. Yes, we'd have to have it out 24 hours in advance.
Is that something you can help with and get done?
I certainly can. If you want to just forward me what items need to be on the agenda, I'll be happy to get one published.
Okay, I'll send you that today. And Randy, will you be able to send an invite to people on this commission so they have it on the calendar?
I believe so. I'm not sure. Yeah, I believe so. I'm not sure if I have everybody's email address, but I know I have yours. So what I might do is just send it to you, and then if you would forward it out to everybody. But I'll forward it to everybody whose email I have, definitely.
Okay, and does that work? If you do that approach, does it give us the streaming we need to the public?
Yeah, I'll have that covered.
Okay, got it. Well, that's fine. Feel free to do that, and I'll send it to these. I'll send it to the commission members I want to attend. Let's see. Okay.
And if you do that agenda, Mark, I'll do the minutes of this meeting.
That's a deal. Okay, perfect. Thank you. It's gonna be a very short agenda, Randy. I think that is it. Anything else that we
Mark,
need to
is there any
conclude?
chance, once you, I think you suggested you might go through and do a little bit of reorganizing in the specific, the aggregate score categories.
Yeah.
Once you got to where you think you're pretty close to the next control sheet that we're gonna be working off of, could we get copies of that?
Yeah, I'll commit to sending that to you all this weekend.
Right.
That'll work.
Okay. I think that's it. Really appreciate everybody's help. I know I've asked a lot of you guys to turn these things around multiple times with multiple versions, and appreciate everybody doing that. And with
Mark,
that, I'll pass.
Is Walt presenting on the 28th, or is it a group effort? What's the expectation for the 28th?
So
TBD.
The expectation that Angela and I talked about is that the chairman would present most of the information on behalf of the commission.
Do we need to make a motion? Because I'll go ahead and make
Walt,
a motion.
So moved.
Jim will not be invited to our next meeting.
Second.
I told Angela I'd be happy to do that as long as a few conditions were true. One is that all you guys were standing right there too. So I would love for you all to be there. I think it's important for us to all be there and show support, and and be recognized too for the commitment you guys have made and the contributions you've made. So I'm happy to do that. And then also, I'll need a lot of help on individual project questions that come up. But yeah, that's the game plan, which is why I want to get the outline built and start working through what we're actually going to say and make sure everybody's got the best possible presentation we can.
I'll make all your slides for you.
Yeah, I was about to
That'd
say,
be awesome.
Yeah. All the details I'll take care of, Mark.
Super. Yes, you're such a detailed guy.
Yeah, I'm great at that.
All right, with that, I'm going to suggest we close the meeting if I can have a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you all very much.
All
See
right.
you.
All right.
Have a great one,
Take care,
everybody.
guys.